The massive fleet of Zelnar warships hovered in the void of space, their sleek organic hulls pulsing with eerie bioluminescence. For centuries, the Zelnar had dominated the Orion sector, crushing resistance with their advanced technology and ruthless efficiency. No species had ever stood against them for long, until now. A warning beacon flickered on every Zelnar console, displaying a simple yet chilling message. Warning, a human warship is here, and the battle will never be the same. Admiral Vorka of the Zelnar High Command narrowed his many eyes at the message. It was impossible. The humans were nothing more than a young, insignificant race, barely crawling out of their own solar system. Their technology was crude, their ships primitive. How could a single human warship pose any real threat? Yet reports kept pouring in. Destroyed Zelnar cruisers, annihilated patrols, entire supply routes cut off in a matter of days. The humans weren't just fighting. They were winning. "Admiral, we have intercepted a transmission from the human ship," a Zelnar officer hissed, his voice filled with uncertainty. "Play it," Vorka commanded. The audio crackled before a deep, calm voice resonated across the command deck. "This is the UNS Vengeance. You have two choices, retreat or be erased." The silence that followed was suffocating. No species had ever dared to speak to the Zelnar in such a manner. No enemy had ever claimed the power to wipe them out. Vorka let out a slow, guttural growl. "Trace their location. I want that ship obliterated." But deep in his core, an unfamiliar feeling took root, a feeling the Zelnar had never known before. For the first time in their history, they felt fear. The UNS Vengeance drifted like a silent predator among the wreckage of the Zelnar fleet. Its dark, angular hull absorbed the faint light of a distant sun, making it nearly invisible against the vast emptiness of space. Unlike the organic, fluid design of the Zelnar ships, Vengeance was a monument to human ingenuity. Brutal, efficient, and built for war. Captain Elias Rourke stood on the bridge, arms crossed, his sharp blue eyes locked onto the holographic display. The Zelnar were regrouping. Their surviving warships had pulled back into a defensive formation, their weapons cycling up to full power. "They're not running," Commander Ava Sinclair muttered beside him. "They still think they can take us." Rourke exhaled, a slow smirk forming on his face. "Then we'll have to educate them." The Zelnar had learned the hard way that humanity fought differently. Unlike other species they had conquered, humans did not bow, did not break. They adapted, they evolved. And when pushed to the brink, they became something terrifying. "Admiral Vorka's flagship is at the center of their formation," Tactical Officer Bishop reported. "That thing is a monster, 20 times our size, reinforced bio-armor, and it's carrying enough firepower to level a planet." A low chuckle rumbled from Rourke's throat. "Sounds like a fair fight." He turned to the comms officer. "Patch me through." A few seconds later, the Zelnar command channel opened. Vorka's deep, guttural voice came through, thick with arrogance. "Human captain, you will surrender your vessel. You cannot win." Rourke's smirk never faded. "Your fleet said the same thing. They're dust now." A pause. The Admiral hadn't expected such defiance. Then Rourke leaned forward, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "You invaded our colonies. You slaughtered our people. Now, Admiral, you get to learn what it feels like when humans go to war." He cut the transmission. "All hands, battle stations," he ordered, his voice calm but brimming with purpose. "Let's remind them why humans don't lose." The Vengeance surged forward, engines flaring as its massive railguns spun to life. The final battle had begun. The Vengeance roared through the void, its thrusters burning bright against the endless black. On the bridge, Captain Rourke watched as the Zelnar fleet adjusted their formation. They were learning, adapting, but not fast enough. "Incoming fire!" Bishop called out. From the flagship at the center of the enemy formation, a pulse of searing green energy erupted. The massive beam streaked across space, a single blast capable of melting through the hull of a battleship. But the Vengeance was already moving. "Brace!" Sinclair shouted as the ship twisted violently, its inertial dampeners barely keeping up with the maneuver. The energy beam grazed the shields, sending a shudder through the vessel. Warning lights flickered across the consoles, but the damage was minimal. "Shields holding at 70%, Bishop reported. "Good," Rourke said, eyes locked onto the Zelnar flagship. "Let's hit them back. Fire the railguns." The ship trembled as its main cannons discharged. Hyper-accelerated tungsten slugs, each the size of a small car, ripped through space at incredible speeds. They struck the enemy warship's bio-armor, shattering through layers of hardened flesh and metallic plating. Explosions rippled across the Zelnar hull, sending debris spinning into the void. "They're bleeding," Sinclair said, her voice carrying a hint of satisfaction. But the Zelnar weren't done. "Multiple torpedoes incoming!" Bishop shouted. "They're locking onto us with gravitic warheads." "Countermeasures!" Rourke barked. Flares and electronic jammers spewed from the Vengeance, disrupting the torpedoes' targeting systems. Some were thrown off course, exploding harmlessly in space, but 3 still closed in. Impact in 5 seconds. "Brace!" The ship shuddered as the warheads detonated against the reinforced hull. The force of the blast sent the Vengeance spiraling for a moment before the thrusters stabilized her. The bridge flickered as emergency lights kicked in. "Shields down to 35%, Bishop reported. "Hull damage on decks 4 through 6. Rourke clenched his fists. The Vengeance was powerful, but she couldn't take sustained punishment. If they didn't end this fight soon, the Zelnar would wear them down. He turned to Sinclair. "How close can we get to their flagship?" She hesitated. "That thing is putting out enough firepower to swat a fleet. Getting close would be suicide." A slow grin formed on Rourke's face. "Only if we don't finish them first." Sinclair's eyes widened as she realized what he was suggesting. "You want to board them?" "More than that," Rourke said, voice like steel. "I want to take their ship." Silence filled the bridge. It was madness. The Zelnar flagship was a fortress, filled with thousands of enemy soldiers. But Rourke had something the Zelnar didn't understand. Humans. And when humanity was pushed to the brink, they didn't retreat. They charged. He activated the ship-wide comms. "All hands, prepare for assault. We're taking the fight to them." The Vengeance burned toward the enemy flagship at full speed. The Zelnar had started this war. Now, humanity was going to finish it. The Vengeance rocketed toward the Zelnar flagship like a missile, its thrusters burning bright as it closed the gap. The enemy warship loomed ahead, a monstrous fortress of biometal and pulsating alien energy. Plasma cannons lined its hull, spitting out streams of green fire, but the Vengeance weaved through them like a ghost, dodging incoming blasts with ruthless precision. 10 seconds to contact, Sinclair shouted over the chaos. Rourke gripped the armrest of his chair, his pulse steady despite the madness unfolding around him. "Bishop, charge the breaching array. As soon as we're in range, punch a hole in their hull." "Roger that, Captain." The Zelnar must have realized what was happening, because their flagship's defenses suddenly shifted. Large organic tendrils, bristling with weapons, extended from its hull, lashing out in an attempt to swat the Vengeance aside. "Brace!" The ship lurched as one of the appendages scraped against its side, sending a deep, bone-rattling vibration through the decks. Sparks flew from overloaded circuits, but the Vengeance held its course. 5 seconds. The hull of the Zelnar flagship loomed close, a pulsating wall of alien armor. "Firing breaching array!" A burst of concentrated energy erupted from the Vengeance, slamming into the enemy's hull with the force of a falling star. The biometal twisted and ruptured, exposing a massive breach in the ship's side. The vacuum of space pulled debris and unlucky Zelnar crew members out into the black abyss. Rourke didn't wait. "Launch boarding teams! We take their ship or we die trying!" The Vengeance's hangars exploded with activity as boarding pods launched like bullets, hurtling through space toward the breach. Inside each pod, heavily armored human marines gripped their weapons, their expressions hard as stone. They were about to step into the belly of the beast. Rourke turned to Sinclair. "You're with me. Let's show these bastards what humans are made of." Sinclair smirked. "Wouldn't miss it for the world, sir." Their boarding pod detached from the Vengeance, engines flaring as it shot toward the breach. The moment it made contact, magnetic clamps engaged, sealing it to the Zelnar hull. A loud clang echoed through the pod as the doors slid open, revealing a dark, pulsating corridor beyond. The air inside was thick with a sickly green mist, the walls lined with organic tubing that pulsed like veins. A low growl echoed from the depths of the ship. "Movement ahead," one of the Marines muttered, raising his rifle. Rourke stepped forward, his own weapon steady. "Let's go introduce ourselves." And with that, humanity stepped into the heart of the Zelnar flagship, ready to bring the war to them. The air inside the Zelnar flagship was thick, humid, and foul. Every breath felt like inhaling something alive, the walls pulsing with a grotesque, organic rhythm. Dim, green, bioluminescent veins ran along the corridors, casting long, shifting shadows. The ship itself wasn't just a machine. It was a living nightmare. Rourke moved forward, rifle raised, boots squelching against the fleshy floor. Behind him, Sinclair and the Marines spread out in a tight formation, their movements precise and silent. The Zelnar were here somewhere, waiting, watching. "Stay sharp," Rourke muttered into his comm. "They won't let us take this ship without a fight." As if on cue, a low, wet, gurgling sound echoed through the corridor. The Marines froze. Then the walls shifted. A dozen Zelnar warriors burst from the shadows, their sleek, chitinous bodies moving with inhuman speed. They were terrifying creatures, standing over 7 feet tall, with multi-jointed limbs ending in razor-sharp claws. Their eyeless heads pulsed with an eerie, sickly glow, and their mouths, lined with rows of jagged teeth, split open in a screech of rage. "Contact!" Bishop roared. The first wave of Zelnar lunged. The corridor exploded in gunfire. Rourke fired in controlled bursts, his rifle rounds punching through alien carapace, splattering the walls with thick, blue-black blood. A Marine beside him went down, a Zelnar's claws ripping through his armor like paper. "Hold the line!" Sinclair shouted, emptying her clip into a charging enemy. The Zelnar shrieked and collapsed, twitching violently before going still. A warrior leaped straight at Rourke, its claws flashing. He rolled aside just in time, feeling the wind from the strike pass inches from his face. Before the creature could recover, he slammed his combat knife into its throat, twisting hard. The Zelnar convulsed, then collapsed in a heap. The corridor fell silent. "Clear!" a Marine called out, panting. Rourke wiped a streak of alien blood from his visor, and surveyed the carnage. The floor was littered with Zelnar corpses, their bodies still twitching. The Marines had taken losses, 3 men down, 2 more wounded. "We need to keep moving," Sinclair said, reloading her weapon. "If we give them time, they'll regroup." Rourke nodded. "Bishop, where's the command center?" Bishop checked his scanner, frowning. "Their ship layout is organic, but I'm reading a large structure ahead, maybe a control nexus." "Then that's where we're going," Rourke said. "If we can take their command center, we can override the ship's systems." Sinclair smirked. "Steal their flagship right out from under them?" Rourke grinned. "Exactly." The Marines tightened their formation and pushed forward, deeper into the belly of the beast. The Zelnar thought they were the galaxy's apex predators. They were about to learn what happened when humans refused to die. The deeper they moved into the Zelnar flagship, the more the ship seemed to resist them. The corridors twisted in unnatural ways, shifting beneath their feet as if trying to disorient them. Pulsating veins along the walls thickened, leaking a strange, glowing fluid that smelled of decay. "This thing is alive," Bishop muttered, scanning the walls with his visor. "No kidding," Sinclair replied, eyes sweeping the corridor ahead. "Feels like we're walking through a dam's stomach." Rourke kept his rifle up, pushing forward. "Stay focused. This ship bleeds, which means it can die, and we're going to make sure it does." A sudden tremor rocked the corridor, nearly knocking them off their feet. "That wasn't from vengeance," Bishop said grimly. "No, it wasn't. The Zelnar were adapting, fighting back." Then the walls opened up. From the dark recesses of the ship, grotesque new forms emerged, larger, bulkier than the warriors they had just fought. These Zelnar were encased in thick bio-armor, their limbs bristling with natural weapons, bone spikes, serrated blades, and barbed whips dripping with some kind of venom. Their elongated skulls pulsed with eerie light as they stalked forward. "Heavy units," Sinclair said, gripping her weapon tighter. "They brought the big boys." The Zelnar didn't screech or rush them this time. They advanced with slow, deliberate movements, predators who knew they had the upper hand. Rourke didn't wait. "Light 'em up!" The corridor exploded in gunfire as the Marines opened fire. Armor-piercing rounds slammed into the creatures, but their thick plating absorbed most of the shots. The Zelnar marched forward, unfazed, their clawed feet sinking into the fleshy ground. One of them raised an arm, and before anyone could react, a whip-like tendril lashed out, striking a Marine square in the chest. The man screamed as the barbed appendage tore through his armor and yanked him forward. Before he could even raise his rifle, the Zelnar crushed his skull with a single blow. "Fall back!" Rourke shouted. "We need heavier weapons!" The team retreated as Sinclair pulled a grenade from her belt. She primed it, her lips curled into a smirk. "Let's see how they like this." She tossed it. The explosion rocked the corridor, sending a shockwave of fire and shrapnel through the charging Zelnar. 2 of the heavy units went down, their armored shells cracking open as glowing blue ichor spilled from their wounds. But the others kept coming. "Captain, if we don't change tactics, we're going to get chewed up," Bishop warned. Rourke's mind raced. They needed to hit the Zelnar where it hurt, fast and brutal. He glanced at his HUD map. The command center was close. If they could just make it there. "We don't fight them," Rourke decided. "We run." The Marines hesitated for only a second before Rourke barked, "Move!" They turned and sprinted down the corridor, weapons firing blindly behind them to slow the Zelnar advance. The heavy warriors howled in frustration, their massive frames slowing them down just enough for the humans to gain distance. "Command center's just ahead!" Bishop shouted. Rourke saw it, a massive, pulsating chamber with a towering central structure covered in glowing strands of Zelnar neural tissue. This was it, the brain of the ship. He didn't stop running. "Blow the doors! We make our stand inside!" A Marine fired a breaching charge. The blast tore through the entrance, and the team rushed in. As soon as they crossed the threshold, Rourke slammed the emergency override panel, sealing the door shut behind them. Heavy thuds echoed as the Zelnar pounded against the barrier, shrieking in rage. But for now, the humans had a moment to breathe. "All right," Rourke said, turning toward the towering control nexus in the center of the chamber. "Let's take this ship." The real battle was just beginning. The command center pulsed like a living heart, its walls rippling with waves of alien energy. Thick, glowing strands of neural tissue stretched from the central control nexus, threading through the ship like a vast nervous system. The entire vessel was alive, and it knew they were here. Rourke scanned the chamber. No guards, no immediate threats. That meant only one thing. "They don't think we can do it," Sinclair muttered, wiping sweat and alien blood from her face. "They think wrong," Rourke said, stepping forward. Bishop moved to the central control structure, his scanner flickering with data. "This thing's a biological supercomputer. If we can sink into it, we might be able to override." The ship screamed. A deep, guttural roar rumbled through the chamber, shaking the walls. The Zelnar weren't just attacking from outside. They were fighting from within. The walls around the nexus peeled open, revealing massive, sinewy tendrils covered in razor-sharp barbs. The ship itself was responding to the invasion. "They're trying to kill us with their own damn command center," Sinclair shouted, raising her rifle. The tendrils lashed out. Rourke barely dodged as one snapped toward him, embedding itself into the ground where he had stood a second ago. Another wrapped around a Marine's leg, yanking him off the ground and slamming him into the wall. His screams were cut short as the ship absorbed him into its fleshy surface. "Get him out!" Bishop yelled, firing into the mass of living tissue. "Too late!" Rourke shouted. The Marine was already gone. The ship was fighting like an organism purging an infection. And they were the infection. "We need to shut this thing down now," Sinclair barked. Bishop ran a gloved hand over the pulsating control strands, scanning them. "There's a neural relay here. If we overload it, we could kill the ship's consciousness. It'll be blind, defenseless." "How much firepower do we need?" Rourke asked, dodging another tendril. Bishop hesitated. "Too much. We don't have the explosives to—" Sinclair grabbed a grenade from her belt. "What if we do?" Bishop's eyes widened. "You're insane. You detonate that inside the Nexus and we might not make it out alive?" Sinclair grinned, wild and fearless. "Then we better run fast." Rourke didn't hesitate. "Do it." Sinclair yanked the pin and shoved the grenade into the Nexus, wedging it between the thickest neural strands. Instantly, the ship screamed again, the walls convulsing in panic. "Go! Go! Go!" Rourke bellowed. They sprinted towards the exit, dodging thrashing tendrils as the entire chamber collapsed in on itself. The floor buckled, neural cords snapping like electrical wires, spewing alien energy across the walls. The grenade exploded. A massive shockwave tore through the ship, sending Rourke and his team flying. The walls shrieked one last time, then the entire structure went still. For a long moment, there was nothing but silence. Then Bishop groaned. "Did it work?" Rourke pushed himself up, coughing. "Check your scanner." Bishop fumbled with his device, then grinned. "The ship's brain is dead. We own this thing now." Sinclair sat up, laughing breathlessly. "Told you it would work." Outside, the pounding on the doors had stopped. The Zelnar had gone eerily silent. Rourke exhaled and keyed his comms. "Vengeance, this is Rourke. The enemy flagship is ours. Repeat, the enemy flagship is ours." A pause. Then a burst of static before the voice of the Vengeance's comms officer came through, disbelieving but triumphant. "Holy hell, Captain! You just stole the biggest warship in the sector?" Rourke looked around at the wreckage, the burned-out Zelnar tech, and the exhausted but victorious Marines beside him. "Damn right we did." The war wasn't over, but the Zelnar had just learned a lesson they would never forget. Humans weren't prey. They were the apex predators now, and the battle would never be the same.